Hello and welcome to our next virtual training session. Today we're going to discuss temporary traffic control. People have asked for some training in flagging and setting up the work site. So hopefully this will cover your questions. Of course, if you have any more, please get hold of me. The primary function of temporary traffic control is to provide a reasonably safe and efficient movement of road users through and around our work zone, while protecting workers, responders to traffic incidents, and the equipment. Now, again, federal regulations starts this. Department of Transportation, they've put a book out called The Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices, or MUTCID. So this is where all these rules come from. Okay, let's talk about working safely in the roadway. Of course, we need our PPE, hard hats, safety glasses, minimum class 2 vest, and work boots. Now, the first thing you want to do when you go to set up your work area is put up a diamond sign. Road work ahead, uh, communication workers ahead, whatever it might be. Then you want to set up enough cones so you have a secure work area. Now, one of the things you want to have inside of your work area is going to be a shadow vehicle, or sometimes called a crash vehicle, to protect your work zone. So people can drive through cones, but it's going to be also awful hard to drive through a truck. So we want that set up, and make sure you leave a little space for the truck to roll ahead in case it is hit. Again, all the vehicles in the work zone should have all their strobes and flashers on. Now, if we're going to set up a taper, let's say we're going to close off the shoulder of the road. We need to have a minimum of 5 cones. Same thing if we're going to take a lane. 5 cones, and the taper should be minimum 50 feet and maximum 100 feet. Then the cones, the channelizers that are set up along our roadway, need to be less than 2 times the speed limit in feet. So if the speed limit is 30 miles an hour, the cone should be no further apart than 60 feet. Okay. Now, when possible, if you're working roadside, try to set up at least 15 feet from the edge of the roadway. This clears us from a lot of the MUTCID limitations on things that we have to do, and just makes it easier and gives us more room. And again, space insulates us from incidents. Now, every day when you leave the job site, make sure you pick up your signs. It's happened before. People need to come back the next day. They leave the signs in place or they lay them down. And you know what can happen. You may not go back to that job site the next day, or somebody else will decide they wanted those signs. So pick up the signs at the end of each workday. And if you're a flagger, remember, never turn your back to oncoming traffic. Now, remember, when you're setting up your work site, you want to do it with a minimum amount of disruption to the road users. So always think about these 4 factors. How long is this work going to take? What is the work location? What kind of roadway are we on? Is it residential? Is it more urban, heavier traffic? We need to think about this. And what type of work are we doing? Are we doing underground? Are we doing aerial? Are we pulling fiber where we need to get a lot of room? Or is it running out some coax? So we need to think about the setup. Now, there are 4 components to the work zone that we're going to set up. We need to have an advanced warning to let people know that we're up in front. We need a transition area if we're blocking the shoulder or we're taking a lane. Then we're going to have our actual activity area, and just past the activity area, we're going to have the termination area. This is where they go back to their regular driving. So if we look at the big picture of our work site, we can see the advanced area. This is where we would have our diamond signs. And then as we come up to where we're going to start going into the roadway, This is our transition area. And again, we want to have 5 cones equally spaced, no less than 50 feet, no more than 100 feet. Then we get into the actual activity area. Now you notice we have kind of a large buffer zone. Again, cones are not going to stop a vehicle. And those channelizers, the cones running along the roadway there, uh, again, 2 times the speed limit in feet, just so people can't go zigzagging through them or trying to do a slalom course. Then we have a shadow vehicle or a crash vehicle. This should always be in place in front of our work area, our workspace, and do leave a little bit of roll ahead space in case it does get hit. And then we have the termination area where you let them back to their normal driving conditions. So we're going to set up the transition area with 5 equally spaced cones per lane. More may be needed based on the speed limit and the width of the lane, and additional channelizing devices may also be used. The cones in the transition area should be no more than 15 feet apart in the taper. Now the activity area includes 4 different spaces. 1, the buffer space, give us some room before they can get to us. Then we have the shadow vehicle, and then if they do mash into this shadow vehicle, we want to have some roll ahead space, about a car length or so length of a vehicle. And then we have our actual workspace. Now here we have a work setup where we have a bit of a curve in the road. Now in the best of all worlds, we would have 2 flaggers, 1 at each end. So you can see right there where that one sign is, prepare to stop. That's the flagger station, about 10 feet in front of the arrow board. And the same thing at the top end up there. Again, we have some space between the arrow board and the work zone. We want to make sure we keep that. Now, the cones in the taper should be no more than 15 feet apart. Okay. Our work vehicle should be at least 50 feet inside of the arrow boards, so we don't come in contact with them. And if we do have 2 flaggers, they should be at least 10 feet in front of the arrow boards so they can be seen clearly. Now, this is also a situation depending on the amount of traffic and the speed where we could possibly get away with 1 flagger. So over in the where the road curves itself, if we can have a flagger station where he can see the traffic from both directions and can control them, speeds under 45 miles an hour, not really heavy traffic, we could get away with 1 flagger in this position. But he has to be alert and has to pay attention to what people are doing. Again, remember, as a flagger, you always need to have a clear escape zone, a path to get away just in case. Now, if we do have to stop traffic to take it down to 1 lane, we got to have a minimum stopping distance or a warning distance before they have to stop. So you can see here on this chart, it's really not very conducive to memorizing, but I would say, again, remember the 10 times rule. Whatever the speed limit is, make sure you're letting them know they got to stop at least 10 times that distance. Again, the distances on that chart are the minimums. So we're really pretty good. You know, if the speed limit's 30 miles an hour, we are 300 feet out, minimum distance is 200. But also remember, we got to watch out if we're working near a hill or a curve, we may have to adjust this one way or another. Again, we need to let people know that there is a stop ahead and give them plenty of time to be able to do that. And again, make sure the flagger has an escape path that's free of obstructions. So you should be using a slow stop paddle. It needs to be on a 7-foot staff, minimum height about 6 feet from the ground. Now we buy these commercially. Minimum size is 18 inches by 18 inches. Depending on the roadway, some states may require it to be 24 inches by 24 inches, just so they're more visible. Now here we show the flagger holding out the stop sign, holding the staff in their right hand with their left hand up, showing people to stop. Now, if we do have to use a flag should only be used in emergencies. Again, 36-inch staff, 24 inches by 24 inches. Again, the flag must be red, not orange, not yellow, not checkered. That'll confuse people and get us into a lot of trouble. Okay, so again, holding the flag straight out from the shoulder, and again, the left hand up, showing people to stop. The reason for the slow stop paddle being on a 7-foot staff is so that it's high enough so it can be seen by approaching and stopped traffic. Now, if we want people to proceed, what we do is we turn the paddle over to slow, and then again holding it out with our right arm. Again, we never stand out in traffic with the paddle. Now, then the left arm's coming across the body, showing him to proceed. If we are using the flag is down with the right arm. And again, we're using the left arm, pulling it across our body, showing them, come on through. Now, if somebody's coming up and they're coming in a little hot, we got to get them to slow down. In this case, you'd be using your left arm, bringing it up to about shoulder height, then dropping it down and repeating. Slow down, slow down, slow down. Same thing with the flag. The flag's out at shoulder height, and we drop it down. This should indicate to them that they should be slowing down for the work zone. Now, the diamond signs that we use, again, they need to be orange in color. That's the color for construction, meaning and microprismatic retroreflective characteristics, meaning it's really bright when it starts getting dark, and when the light hits it, it goes in all directions. Now, minimum size, according to MUDCIT, is 36 by 36. Now, on some state roads, your individual state may say they need to be 48 by 48 inches. Again, we buy these commercially. We should be good to go. Again, we do mount these diamond signs on a stand at least 1 foot above the roadway. And again, these diamond signs should not be on the roadway. Now, the reason for the 1 foot stand is it reduces the setup and removal time. It reduces the worker's exposure to traffic. We don't need to have any orange flags or light on the diamond side, but if you have them, go ahead, use them and just make people more aware. And again, we buy these, so the message and the layout, they will be configured to the MUDCIT regulations. Another thing about the flags that we're using, they must be crash worthy. And by crash worthy, we mean the material that they're made out of. Again, typically plastic or some sort of cloth material. We don't use metal signs. If somebody were to hit a metal sign, you don't know where it would be flying. It could go through their windshield. It could go flying away and hit some other poor bystander. So again, we're going to use a softer material for our diamond signs. Now, whenever possible, working along the roadside, try to get at least 15 feet off the edge of the pavement. Now, according to MUDCIT, when we do this, we don't need to put up any special signage. All we need is our flashers and high intensity strobe or oscillating light. But for Verita, we still want to make sure that we have a diamond sign out, letting people know that there's, road work ahead, utility work ahead, whatever you have. And also, we do want you to put out cones. So just because it would be okay per MUDCIT, just to be on the safer side with Verita, we want those out anyway. Now, if we do have to work on the shoulder, again, the first thing we want out to warn people is our advanced warning sign, utility work ahead. That should be out a minimum 500 feet to a maximum of 1,000 feet. Of course, if you're working in a residential area, you could shorten that up. You want to make it so it makes sense. Then we have our taper, again, maximum 100 feet, minimum 50 feet. And then we have our channelizers around the vehicle. Now make sure you have those cones out far enough where you can get in and out of the vehicle without having to get on the traffic side of the cones, okay? Uh, so, and again, if we have a shadow vehicle, that makes things a lot easier. We have it parked behind us with their lights on, and we're good to go. Other things we should think about is the traffic flow. Let's say in the morning the traffic is coming from the west heading east. Well, with all the traffic on that side of the road, let's try to do our work on the east side. Then later in the day, when the traffic starts heading back to the west, we can work on the other side of the roadway. Another good point to remember is, if at all possible, avoid shutting down lanes before 9 a.m. and try to be out of the way by 3 p.m. if at all possible. Another thing is, if your vehicle ever breaks down, cone it off, put on your flashers. Again, we do not want to get other people involved. Now, another tidbit I picked up, piece of trivia, is to help you estimate the distances we're talking about. Typically, the stripes on the road are about 10 feet in length, and the space between the stripes on the road is about 30 feet. So if we think about it, from the start of one stripe to the start of the next stripe is 40 feet. So if you have 5 of those, 5 stripes between you, that's 200 feet. Just another way of calculating this. Now, where we have higher speeds and more traffic, we're going to want to put out more than one sign. And again, this is going to be the 10 times rule. So let's get our first sign out 500 to 1,000 feet. Then the other sign should be take the speed limit and add another 0 to it, and that's about how far away those signs should be. Again, we want to make sure that people are aware of what's going on. We don't want the signs too far apart, and we don't want them too close together where they can't see them or react to them. So we remember, always think about the changing roadway conditions and the changing traffic conditions. Again, rush hours. Think about if you're working near a school, what time the kids are getting in and out. Keep an eye on what the general public is doing. So one more time, going over the channelizer spacing, how far a cone should be set up. Again, whatever the speed limit is, double that in feet. So if we're in a 30 mile per hour speed limit area, the cone should be no more than 60 feet apart. If it's 45 miles an hour, no more than 90 feet apart. So if we're doing drive-out construction, we want to make sure our flashers and strobes are on. And again, this is if we're moving less than 3 miles per hour. So if we have a T40 and we're running strand and fiber at the same time, lashing it as we're going along, we can do this. It's also better to have a shadow vehicle with a light bar on top of it to protect us. Now again, if we do have to make frequent stops, we should have a flagger to let people know what's going on. So again, when possible, use warning signs, but again, you got to keep them within, firing distance of the work vehicle. All right, this was a quick go over for what we're doing and how we should be treating the general public and keeping our people safe in traffic. Again, any further questions, feel free to get hold of me and we'll talk. All right, everybody, stay safe. Remember, space is our insulation from incidents. Stay safe, everyone.